Good morning to some of us. Good afternoon to some of us. My name is Esther. I'll be making a short presentation on ECOWAS's pathway to early response, with a particular focus on national peace infrastructures as a tool for upstream conflict prevention. I do beg your pardon, something has just happened to my screen. Okay, can you still see my screen? I will assume that you're still, I'm hoping you're still seeing my screen.
Yes, Esther, we can see your screen.
Okay, good. Okay, my presentation, like I said, would be very short, and I will start with a brief introduction to the ECOWAS early warning system. For those of us that are not familiar with the system, I'll touch briefly on the mandate and the milestones of the system. I'll also quickly broach ECOWAS's approach to early warning, which is a very specific approach to our region. I'll talk about our very important initiatives in connecting early warning to early response, and that's in the form of the National Early Warning and Response Mechanism. And I will also talk about where we're trying to go in the near future, which is the establishment of national peace infrastructures in our communities. I will talk about some potential frameworks for that peace infrastructure and some potential models and goals of the infrastructure. So the premise for our mandate is found in the 1999 protocol, to be specific, chapter 4 of the 1999 protocol, which talks about a regional peace and security observation system known as the early warning system. And in particular, Article 23 stipulates what we're supposed to do, which is data collection, analysis of that data, and preparation of response-inducing reports for the President and, by extension, I would say for the management of the ECOWAS Commission. We're also mandated to collaborate with other organizations, namely, it says here the UN, the AU, and the EU. Of course, the protocol was signed by all 15 member states in the region, and I think that demonstrates the level of political buy-in that there is for the content of the protocol in the region, and specifically for early warning. I think this very strong mandate also has augured well for the acceptance of the analysts that we have been generating. Quickly, the key milestones of the regional early warning mechanism include the development of the ECOWAS system. I will still provide some specifics later on in my presentation. In 2004, the incorporation of civil society into the system, which was in 2005, and specifically by this, I mean WANEP became an implementing partner. In 2005, we developed our indicators for the system. And in 2009, we're very proud to have been able to incorporate GIS into the system. In 2013, we conducted an evaluation of the system just to have a feel of where we are, evaluate the impacts of the alerts we are generating, not just within the Commission, but also the impacts at the national, at the member state level. And this evaluation was very insightful. And I think this is probably the basis and the premise for which we thought it was very important to have be intentional with connecting early warning and early response. In 2015, we developed a 5-year strategic plan because we thought it was important to have specific and laid down objectives with an M&E component to be able to serve as an internal check to us as to the pertinence of the work we're doing and if we're in the right direction. In 2017, we started the deployment of National Early Warning and Response Mechanism. I will still elaborate on this further in my presentation. And in 2020, we upgraded the ECOWAS system, include some very interesting new features. One of them enables the indicators now to gauge the potential for escalation. Another interesting feature in the upgraded version of ECO1 is the ability to be able to look at the adequacy, if any at all, of any response initiatives that are being conducted. And we also, this upgraded version has also enabled us to systematically incorporate gender dimensions into every indicator. So briefly, this is the structure of the early warning process. The foundation of it, of course, is on data. We have 77 field monitors in our 15 member states collecting data on a daily basis. The mandate is to collect data and to report this data via the ECO1 system. Once this data is collected, of course, we analyze based on the data that is given to us using GIS and a newly developed ECOWAS specific human security analysis framework to present and analyze the context of the situation, to build scenarios, to conduct hotspot and actor mapping for the purpose, of course, of informing our policy and decision makers on alerts that impact the population of our region. And the whole essence of this, of course, is bridging the gap between early warning and response and decentralizing early warning and response. So it's where it matters the most. So this slide here just illustrates the process of information collection and by whom. The early warning, the ECOWAS early warning module includes ECO1, which is a web database which enables us to do incident reporting. Incident reporting as the incident is happening in real time. We're getting reports of the incidents through the system. Situation reporting gives us, is based on our indicators and enables us to do situational analysis of the specific thematic-based indicators that we're monitoring. Of course, we have the news event, open source information, and we're in the process of revitalizing the Peace Forum. The Peace Forum was something that we had in the past, and we have revitalized it, we have redefined it. And the essence of this is to be able to forge better cooperation and better relationships with people external to the system. We are hoping that with this forum, we will be able to have information, we'll be able to have the buy-in from experts, not just within the region, but from experts around the globe on thematic issues that will be putting in the system periodically to have feedback. So for instance, we want to discuss a very topical issue now, which has to do with gender in the context of COVID. One of the analysts would be launching that topic on the Peace Forum and would be soliciting the comments, the thoughts, the qualitative analysis from experts in the field to enrich our understanding and to enrich our perspectives. Of course, another model of the ECO1 system is the GIS model. This is the platform for analyzing geospatial data to be able to do situational reporting which are pertinent to human security. We also have a document management system which enables us to archive our documents for the sake of institutional memory. When I mentioned earlier that we have a very specific approach to early warning, our approach is premised on 5 thematic pillars of human security, which are pertinent to the context of the region. The first pillar is crime and criminality. We look at indicators on drug, human trafficking, organized crime, cybercrime, migration. The second pillar is security. We look at indicators on terrorism, violent extremism, maritime security. The third pillar is governance and human rights. Governance and human rights, youth bulge, unemployment, and gender. The fourth pillar is health, pandemics, epidemics, health infrastructure. The fifth pillar is on the environment. We're looking at indicators on climate change, food security, land tenure, and transhumance. After having over the years done what we tend to call a very good setting of the foundation, we thought after a 10-year evaluation of the system, it became apparent to us that though we had established a relatively a solid system, processes and tools, there was still a very huge gap between the early warning we were doing and requisite response at the different levels, either at the regional level or at the national level. In order to bridge this gap and to address this, it was thought wise to decentralize early warning and early response, thereby making alerts directly available to national responders at the member state level. This brought to the fore the establishment of the National Center for the Coordination of Response Mechanism within the framework of this National Early Warning and Response Mechanism. The mandate of these centers in each member state is to alert government of potential threats to human security, propose appropriate responses to identify threats, identify the relevant response structures within the national structures, and also to facilitate, coordinate, and I think the operative word here is coordinate, because I think we all know that most times when a response is necessary, it's a multidimensional response. So the essence, the crux of the mandate of this National Center is to be able to pull together all the different response actors within the national response structures for more effective coordination of the response, and of course to monitor implementation of responses to alerts received. From establishing national early warning mechanisms, we're hoping to complete the cycle. And by this, we mean taking early warning and response to the community level through the establishment of national peace infrastructure. What do we mean by national peace infrastructure in the context of the ECOWAS region? Well, we know that there's a growing reawakening, and we're very happy about this. So the notion that contemporary conflicts in the ECOWAS region spring from deeply rooted causes that often reemerge, if not tackled at the root sources. There's also a growing awareness that a top-down approach to entrenching peace is rarely sustainable, and there's a need for structural and long-term measures founded on the capacities within the member states for it to be effective. Also, the sustainable peace building requires a multi-level and long-term investment targeted at building capacities within the communities that can alert to potential conflict, manage those conflicts that do, low-intensity conflicts that do erupt, and over the time, address the structural roots of human insecurity. We're in the process of evaluating what exists in the member states, but we're starting on the premises that many of our member states lack adequate systematized community structures to deal with the range of potential triggers that most affect their immediate communities. So our theory of change is thus: if we move beyond the formalistic security approach and support viable local and national mechanisms, this would better position community actors to serve as the real custodians, as they rightfully should be, social cohesion, facilitating sustainable local, national, and by implication, regional stability. Already, we have normative and strategic frameworks that serve as the foundation for these peace infrastructures that we're talking about. One of them is ECOWAS Conflict Prevention Framework that talks about the systematic inclusion of community actors in conflict prevention. There's the Monrovia Declaration that was an assessment of the ECOWAS peace architecture, which called on the ECOWAS Commission to engage member states in strengthening the capacity to manage and resolve low and low intensity conflicts. We have our ECOWAS Vision 2020 that calls on ECOWAS to move from an ECOWAS of states, to move from an ECOWAS of governments to an ECOWAS of people, putting people at the center of our programs. We have our own early warning strategic plan that calls on ECOWAS to improve the linkages between early warning and early response mechanisms at the local, national, and regional level. And a very important strategy, which is the ECOWAS counterterrorism strategy, illustrates the pertinence and importance which ECOWAS places on community involvement in peace and security. Pillar 1 of the strategy, which was adopted by the heads of states in 2013, Pillar 1, where early warning resides, specifically advocates for the involvement of local communities in the prevention of radicalization and entrenchment of peace. So we have a very robust normative and strategic framework on which to launch this process. We are about to start mapping the existing structures within member states, and from the rudimentary desktop studies we're doing, we're expecting to see maybe a multiple of these infrastructures existing within our communities. We're expecting to see, of course, the low impact of the I4P that exists in member states, the dispersal of efforts, the lack of coordination. These are all the issues we want to tackle. Already, we have done a lot of assessments and research in the member states. One of them, which should serve as a baseline for the establishment of these peace infrastructures. We know the context, we know the issues that these peace infrastructures should be designed to address. One of them is the country and regional risk assessment vulnerability studies that were conducted in all 15 member states recently, which provides empirical data on the context of human security in each member state. It also does something that we think is going to be very important in the context of establishing peace infrastructure, which is through the conduct of these peace infrastructures, we're able to identify the actors, the structures in member states, and the factors in member states that serve as the resilience factor. And if we are looking to build peace infrastructures, then of course you need to look at the resilience factors in member states for that. And the CRV has also proposed recommendations. So we have a baseline for the kind of issues that these peace infrastructures would be dealing with. I wanted to share a sample of this assessment. This is the assessment, a copy of the assessment, the cover page of the assessment that was done in Burkina Faso. The goal in the context of the peace infrastructure, of course, is to serve as a reference point to articulate the context for the establishment of peace infrastructure. And here is an illustration of some of our products. In this case, this actually shows you an index of the resilience and the vulnerability along our 5 thematic pillars for Chad, Cameroon, Niger, and Nigeria. This was in the framework of the RRV that was conducted. And here we wanted to share with you some of the data sources we used to conduct this assessment. And of course, here you see ECOWAS. This is our own organic homegrown data. This is ECOWAS. And then, of course, here we have other data sources like ACLED. And this picture shows some of the consultations that were conducted within that assessment. Based on these assessments and previous work that we have done, we thought it was important to leverage on the existing data within the early warning system. By this, I mean the CSO mapping we had done in the context of establishing the national early warning and response mechanisms in member states. We went in and we looked at the existing CSOs, in member states, and we did a little bit more than that. Apart from looking at the existing CSOs, we also tried to understand their areas of focus along the 5 thematic areas. So who are what are the CSOs, community actors that are working in the areas, for example, of environment? Which ones are focusing on the areas of security, for instance? So we were able to do that mapping. And also in the context of the CRVA, we conducted a stakeholder network analysis, which up to date has been able to map 1,189 CSOs, CBOs, NGOs, government agencies, and humanitarian actors in all the 15 member states. And this slide shows you that SMA. Here, this is a very rudimentary illustration, and it depicts a very rudimentary notion of the infrastructure. As we go further into developing this, and with further consultations, we expect to arrive at structures and models that are suitable to the context of our region and that effectively serve to improve early warning at the community, early warning and early response at the community level. We expect alerts to be generated at the 3 levels: at the community level, at the national level, and at the regional level. And at the same time, we expect the responses also to be implemented at the regional level, at the national level, and at the community level. And as an initial thought, we have put together what we're thinking would be some of the organizations, some of the structures that might constitute this peace infrastructure. The objectives, of course, of this infrastructure is to establish a framework for community actors to detect and address signs of fragmentation in order to quickly address this before they need to be escalated to national or regional issues that would warrant intervention, and to build synergies between national, regional, and international actors, which will help identify the structures and the actors that would be the interlocutors at the community level, and of course to shift the onus of peace building to the community level. Specifically for this pitch, we're hoping our desire for this pitch would be to get thoughts, feedback of participants on the composition, the structure, the model of the national peace infrastructure to enrich. We're at the stage of conceptualizing this initiative. So our desired outcome for this pitch today is to have your feedback and your thoughts on this. I'd like to end by sharing a quote from a man who epitomizes peace, the late and great, as they say, Nelson Mandela, who says, "Everything that is done for me, without me, is done against me." And I think this particular slide, this particular quote, illustrates and underscores that if well crafted and if well defined, the peace infrastructure should be and should serve as a catalyst for homegrown solutions in our communities in the ECOWAS region. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Thank you. I'm not sure how this is supposed to work from here. If there are any questions, I see everybody's muted. Shireen, I don't know if anybody has any questions, if they're able to unmute themselves.
Hello.
Sylvester.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
Yeah, my name is Sylvester Musele. I am calling from Nigeria. Yeah, I represent Society for Peace, Studies and Practice, and also the National Coordination for Youth and Conflict Resolution based in Delta State. This is the ECOWAS model. Can you hear me?
I can hear you clearly.
Okay, this ECOWAS model for conflict early warning that has been existing actually is very, very interesting and very, very nice to see the modalities and the workings of this model. Actually, in Niger Delta area, the organization I represent called Conflict Resolution, we have been trying to design these local conflict early warning and early response mechanisms, and they have been looking out for a larger organization that can be able to, we can network with to be able to serve as gathering data and also transmitting data to such organizations, serve as an open source or direct source NGOs that could transmit data. So this is a good one. I will be very, very happy if we have an opportunity to get to be part of the workings of this ECOWAS early warning and early response mechanisms. And it's a good one, and it's good. I believe it's going to be a good result. It will give you a good result when applied to local communities that is existing in West Africa, starting from my locality in Niger Delta. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Sylvester. You are on the ground. I guess your organization, I'm not quite sure if I know it, but your organizations are part of the ones, of course, that we feel are the custodians of the context, are the custodians of the issues on the ground. So I wish you good luck with the work you're doing. And because you're on the ground, the expectation is you have your hands on the pulse, and you're able to gather the data that sometimes we are not able to gather at that micro level being so far away in Abuja. So I wish you good luck with the work that you're doing, and I completely agree with you that there should be collaboration. Thank you. Thank you for your observations.
Hello, my name is Marcella Calabi. May I ask?
Hi, Marcella.
How are you today? I would go beyond saying impressed to saying that I'm moved by your presentation.
Thank you.
You're doing such important work and with inspiring values in terms of the primacy of local action, and you are articulating important aspects of all of these systems very clearly, and which is helpful for all of us. Thank you for that work.
Thank you.
My question is, can you just say a little bit more? I understand that the focus of this presentation is on the infrastructure for response, but can you take just a minute to talk about the mechanisms for warning that you are taking advantage of, how communication is being, how information is being communicated so that it arrives in the right place in a timely fashion? Is that something you could address briefly,
Certainly.
taking you too far off your desired agenda for today?
Sure. I think I might have rushed through that because it's good to have a clear understanding of how the alerts are generated to be able to have an appreciation of what the response should look like. I'll be brief. At the regional level, we have our web-based platform, which is called the ECOWAS. And in every member state, we have our field monitors. I did mention that in the presentation, but like I said, maybe I rushed through it. We have our field monitors who are reporting into the system. So Marcella, on a daily basis, as the incidents are happening in Bamako, I am getting to sit in Abuja for the incident reporting. So we have that mechanism to receive information from our field monitors who do two things on the ECOWAS system. They do what we call incident reporting, and they do what we call situation reporting based on defined indicators. These indicators are not random indicators. These indicators are premised on the early warning approach to human security, which is on 5 pillars. So on the pillars of governance, for instance, we have very well thought through, very targeted indicators on governance that are specific to the region. So we expect our field monitors to fill these indicators, which I mentioned were just recently upgraded to be able to also look at the potential for escalation. We're very excited about this. We just launched this in January, and we're hoping that it's going to be transformational in the quality of data that we're getting. These indicators enable us to not just have information on the specific indicator, but also to have information on the adequacy of a response, if any, and also to have a clear understanding of the gender dimension. So to answer your question in a nutshell, Marcella, we are getting information primarily from our field monitors. That said, we have other sources of information that we do employ. We try to triangulate ECOWAS data just to be sure that we're on the right track and the data that we're collecting is reflective of what other organizations are doing. So like I said, for the purpose of the CRBA, we triangulated the ECOWAS data with a lot of data sources. And aside that, at the national level, we have agencies who are custodians of information, especially specific information concerning health, concerning the environment, and we're also able to work with them to get that data from them. So our early warning mechanism consists of generating that information from member states. And we have just also developed what we call the Human Security Analysis Framework. So it's a very well-defined methodology. Once that data comes in, what do we do with it? We analyze it, and we analyze it based on the framework that is bespoke to the ECOWAS region. Whereby we look at. Sorry.
No, I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
So we get that data, we look at that data, and we analyze that data in a way that is targeted to our audience and within the mandate of the commission, of the institution. And the essence of, and when we do this, we generate early warning reports, alerts, for the purpose in which we have different structures. We're building scenarios, we're analyzing the actors, we're looking at the risk for potential, we're generating early warning products for our principals, which is the management of the ECOWAS Commission. And a very important component of these products we're generating is the component that we call the options for response, or the recommendations. So which is us telling the policymakers that, listen, this is what the data is saying, and all our analysis is data driven. So it's not Esther saying, Your Excellency, this is what I think. You know, obviously we still layer it with a qualitative approach, but it's data driven, and we base our analysis on data, and we say, this is what the data is saying. This is our interpretation of what that data is saying. This is our interpretation of what that data is saying. These are the scenarios we foresee, and these are the recommendations that we are suggesting to be able to mitigate that situation.
So your monitors are trained, they're identified individuals. It's not any kind of crowdsourcing. They're identified individuals who are trained to look for specific indicators.
Yes.
And
the profile of our field indicators are actually four from academia. So there's the students, master's students, PhD students, 4 from the academia and research centers, 1 from civil society, the 5 in each member state, apart from Nigeria that has 7.
Brilliant. And so you are working on long-term responses. It is not like violence interruption in real time, because it goes through an analytical process.
It's both. It's both. We do what we call event-driven situation also in the context, for instance, and we're also looking at structural issues. So we're looking at both. And you ask a very important question, Marcella, because at the end of the day, sometimes we also need to look at the most efficient way to present the work we're doing and to prioritize it. So, for instance, when we're looking at issues of maybe socio-political tension that have imminent consequences for human security, these are reports that we're generating as it's happening, and based on the situation reports we get and the incident report, provide the empirical data. Of course, these are imminent threats to peace and security. At the same time, we're also looking at the root causes of these issues. What are the fragmentations in the society? What are the issues that are actually the drivers of this, of what is manifesting presently? So we try to articulate our report in such a way as to be very realistic, to say, these are the issues, these are short-term issues that we need to address, and these are the long-term issues that we need to address. And of course, I can tell you this, that sometimes we find that the short-term issues would get a lot of attention and resources, rightfully so.
Thank you very much. Very helpful. Thank you.
Oh, I can see some things. I'm really excited about this.
Can I say chip in something? Hello, is there any possibility I can say something?
Please go ahead, Sylvester.
Okay. Yeah, actually, yeah. Okay, thank you. Actually, this early warning and early response model, actually, I was trying to see how I could enhance the one, like I told you earlier, my organization here in Nigeria implemented on the ground. What ours is a localized version, which is not so, it doesn't have those technical aspects, but we just had to make a network within the local community chairman and the community youth leaders, just like an organization whereby we have a WhatsApp group whereby we inform ourselves, each other, on impending conflict situation, and we resolve it in the WhatsApp group, and then we look for easy way to communicate it to the authorities. So I'm looking at this one, the model you presented now, I'm looking at the larger scale, and I believe it will require a larger expertise. So I'm looking at ways whereby it can be, this model can be localized and maybe made to, like from your presentation I saw where you said you are trying to see how the next phase of this your work is going to be on how you can be able to gather information, localize it in the communities. Yeah, I think am I right? You're trying to localize it in the community. So I'm looking for ways how we can further collaborate, maybe to see how can we use the working model, also give us the expertise or teach us the expertise to be able to expand our own local way of doing early warning here, because I believe it's very important, because most of the information we pass out to the government and to the authorities are very important, and that we have been timely to these organizations. So I believe if we are more trained and more included in this process, we'll do better. Thank you very much.
Okay, Sylvester, I'm going to call on my colleague, Mrs. Alice Solomon, who actually masters better than I do our relationship with our field monitors, to be able to, I think, advise you better and maybe talk to you about some of the trainings that we conduct with our field monitors to boost the capacity. Alice, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Esther. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning also. Esther actually covered everything. I don't think I'm going to say anything different from what she has said as such. But like she rightly said, there are 77 field monitors across the 15 member states of ECOWAS, 5 from each member state, and then 7 from Nigeria. And then 1 source from civil society organization. Actually, the civil society organization we are collaborating with is on the West African Network for Peace Building. So, and they have, presence in the 15 ECOWAS member states. So it makes it a lot easier for us. In terms of open source media, where we collect our information from, like she rightly said, we also collaborate with the African Union, because the African Union has a platform that is called the African Media Monitor that does kind of horizon scan and collects, generalized information that covers, the entire continent in every 10 minutes. So what we did as a REC, ECOWAS, and this platform is deployed to all the RECs in the region, in Africa. So for ECOWAS, we customized it to, be able to filter, information relevant to our region. So every 10 minutes, once an incident occurs from the African Media Monitor, we are able to pick it up. So on a daily basis, the situation officers in the situation room in ECOWAS provides a snapshot report of what has occurred, in the 15 member states in the past 24 hours. That also adds up to, the reports produced by the analyst, and the analysis and the scenarios and all, others that goes to our policy makers. And before this information, even what we collect from the field monitors, before they are utilized, they go through what we call first level, second level, and third level quality control, just for us to be very certain that our information, reflects the true reality on the ground. So we've been doing all this. And then just to add to, I think, Sylvester's question, wanting to, to collaborate, it's a very good one. During Ms. Esther's presentation, she talked about the peace infrastructure. This we are also trying to deploy, in all, the member states, and we'll be working closely with organizations like yours, where at the grassroots and the community level, we can collaborate, and you provide the information you're talking about. So I am very happy, for the request that you've made. And when we start to, build, properly across the entire region, we remember, to include you. Thank you, Esther, for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Alice. I can see some questions in the chat. I'm trying to respond to them as quickly as I can. I've also shared my email address in the chat in case there are further questions. And of course, we'll be happy to send the presentation. I'm not sure if there are any more questions or if we have exhausted our questions. Like I said, we'll be very happy to follow up via email and privately. And if we do have any questions that have not been responded to on the chat, I do apologize. I'm trying to make sure that we do that very quickly. Serene, I don't know what you think. It seems that there are no more questions. I don't know if we've exhausted our time. I know we're allocated 45 minutes. I think we've done 42. If we don't have any more questions. Serene, what's the normal protocol?
Esther, it's my
Yes.
child. I would only want to say that you should not take from our quiet any concern that you have, left us uninspired. As I wrote in the chat, this of all the presentations that I've come to in the series is one that I expect that I will be telling my colleagues to follow up on, and please don't be discouraged by the quiet. It's very
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
very important work.
That's very kind of you.
Well done. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. That's very kind of you.
Hi, Esther.
Hi, Sean. Good to see you.
We have our session from 10:15 and coming. It's I really want to express we thank you for your data and for historical data analysis for the past 12 years. I think it will be interesting. And thank you for your beautiful presentation. Nice to see you there.
We'll be staying on to listen to your session.
Yeah, stay tuned. All right. Are you in Abuja?
Yes, I am.
All right.
I'm in sunny Abuja.
Right. Take care, and I'll stay tuned. I'll see you in a minute.
Thank you, Sean. I think the session is just about to end. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank everybody for joining our session. We appreciate your presence, for taking the time to be with us. We hope we're able to answer your questions satisfactorily. And please, we're looking forward to forging relationships and collaborating in the future. Thank you very much. Much appreciated.